So a few episodes back, I told you about the Game Informer editor spilling the beans that there was a new Zelda coming soon, sooner than we thought anyway. And then an episode or two after that, I talked about how Mr. Aonuma got up on stage at the Zelda Music Festival in Japan and asked everybody if they thought that Skyward Sword for the Nintendo Switch was a good idea. And then I kind of dissected and talked about why that would be good or why that would be bad. But I think everybody pretty much agreed that it wasn't a rumor that it was coming to the Switch. It was definitely happening because Mr. Aonuma, the game producer of Breath of the Wild, he's the guy that got up on stage and asked, "Do you guys want Skyward Sword on the Switch?" And people cheered. And you would think a very, very conservative company like Nintendo, like you would think that they wouldn't let him get up there and get all that hype going if it wasn't going to happen. But Nintendo spoke to somebody at Eurogamer, and they were specifically asked, "Are you guys actually working on Skyward Sword HD or Skyward Sword for the Switch?" And the response was, "At this time, we have no plans to release The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword on Nintendo Switch." So, I think that took a lot of wind out of people's sails. There's a lot of people who were really excited for that idea. I was kind of in the middle. I was neither excited nor disappointed. I was crossing my fingers that they would fix the things that I didn't really like about it, although I wasn't really hopeful that that would happen. And now we have news that it's not happening. But do we believe them? Like, we've seen this before where a game company will say, "Oh, we're not working on that." And then bam, it happens. Just recently this happened. Just recently Blizzard said, "Hey, we are working on," or no, they were asked straight up, "Are you working on Diablo 3 for the Nintendo Switch?" And I believe what they said was, "We have no plans to release a Diablo 3 port for the Nintendo Switch at this time." And then, like less than a couple of months later, bam, they announced Diablo 3. So, like, it's hard to believe these companies when they say we have no plans to do this at this time, because a lot of times they're just full of malarkey about that. Like, they are straight up lying to our faces, and I don't think there's anything malicious about it, but they lie to us so that they can surprise us at a later date. I don't really understand the reasoning, but the idea that Nintendo would allow Mr. Aonuma to get up on stage and ask that to the crowd, only to then shoot everything down afterwards, that just seems like a bad idea. And I'm very, very confused. I'm not sure if, like, perhaps he didn't clear it with anybody first. Perhaps he was just trying to get people excited so he could go back to his bosses at Nintendo and say, "See, people want this. Let's go ahead and give this to them." They had already done some development of Skyward Sword, an HD version, when they were working on on Breath of the Wild. I read an article about that just the other day. So I'm not sure how I feel about this story. I'm not sure if I believe that Nintendo actually has no plans to release Zelda Skyward Sword on the Switch at this time. Somebody mentioned, well, maybe they're going to release it on the 3DS, which, God, like, you can't release it on the 3DS unless you take all motion control out, which a lot of people would be really happy about, removing all motion control. And before you write your emails, yes, I know the 3DS has a gyroscope in it, okay? But, like, it's not separate. You can't do a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. So I understand that. But I can't imagine them porting that game to the 3DS. I know that they've recently been porting games to the 3DS, and we have other Zelda games on the 3DS that we didn't think that we would ever have. But I don't see that as a viable option. Not unless it's coming to both platforms, because porting that for the 3DS, I don't think that that is something that would make them a whole lot of money. I don't think it would be worth the time investment to remap all of the controls to put the game on a, and here's where people are going to get mad at me, a dying system. The 3DS is on its way out. It's slowly getting less and less support. Fisto in chat says you can use the swipe method like what like what Okami adapted. It could work on the Switch too. I could see that, but I don't think it's worth the time investment. So I don't know. I look at this story and I feel like Nintendo is, baiting us a little bit. I think that they are trolling us just a little bit, and I don't know how I feel about that. I still think that we could see Skyward Sword come to the Switch. And I think that Nintendo just doesn't want anything to get in the way of their messaging before Smash comes out. I could be wrong about this, and most likely I am. But that's just what I'm guessing. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think Nintendo saying this is a definitive, hey, we're not going to get it? Or do you think that they are just trying to control their messaging? If you do think it's coming, well, whether you think it's coming to the Switch or not, is it something that you would be interested in? Would you play it on the 3DS? There's all of those questions. There's a lot of ways that you can answer those. If you're watching the podcast here on YouTube, then you can just comment down below. If you are listening to it, all the ways that you usually get a hold of me through email or voicemail or whatever, you can get a hold of me that way. Let me know what you guys think, because I am very interested in your opinions on this. It's such a weird confluence of events. I don't know why Nintendo would do that.